Shalom everyone. Today we are Zocha B'Yezras Hashem to begin a new Sefer, the third of the big Sifrei Nevi'im. We were Zocha to finish, at least one time around, Sefer Yeshayahu and then Sefer Yirmiyahu. And now we begin with Sefer Yechezkel. I will talk about Yechezkel a little bit as we read the first pasuk. Let me start with the pasuk right away. Sefer Yechezkel Vayehi Perek Aleph Pasuk Aleph Vayehi B'Shleishim Shana B'Revi'i B'Chamisha L'Chaydesh V'Yani B'Seicha Geila Al Nahar Kavar Niftechu Hashamayim V'Ere Marais Elokim. And it was in the 30th year. 30th year from what? We'll see. B'Revi'i, the 4th month, which is Tammuz, counting from Nisan. B'Chamisha L'Chaydesh, so we know it was the 5th of Tammuz, the 30th year. And I, so the Navi is talking in first person, was together with the exiles in Babylonia on the banks of the river Kavar, and all of a sudden the heavens opened, and I saw the awesome visions of Hashem. So a little explanation. Well, let's look at the second pasuk first. And the second pasuk repeats, B'Chamisha L'Chaydesh, it was the 5th of the month. He Hashana HaChamishis L'Galus HaMelech Yoyachin. So this is a very, very important bit of information. Yehoyachin HaMelech was a grandson of the righteous king Yoshio. Remember, Yoshio was killed. His son Yehoachaz became king for 3 months. And then he was succeeded by his brother, Yoshio's other son, Yehoyakim, who was king for 11 years. Yehoyakim was succeeded by his son, Yehoyachin or Yechanya, or Kanayahu, who was only king for 3 months. And he was succeeded by his uncle, Yoshio's 3rd son, Tzidkiyahu, and 11 years later was the Churban Beis HaMikdash. In Yoyachin's 3-month reign, and this is why it only lasted for 3 months, was the first wave of exiles. The Nebuchadnezzar exiled Yehoyachin and the Chagash and the Masker. This means the Talmidei Chachamim to Bavel. And they came to Bavel 11 years before the Churban Beis HaMikdash. And Chazal say this was Min HaShamayim in order to ensure that by the time the general population got to Bavel, there would already be a Makam Torah, the Talmidei Chachamim already would have been settled, and the like. So we are told here that Yechezkel was among the Talmidei Chachamim who were exiled in Bavel, and this particular nevuah that seems to be the first nevuah that he had was the 5th year from the Galus of Melech Yehoyachin. Now remember, if Galus Yehoyachin occurred 11 years before the Churban, then the 5th year is 6 years before the Churban Beis HaMikdash. So Yechezkel is getting this nevuah. Yechezkel number 1 is among the Charash and the Maskir. Number 2, he's getting this nevuah 6 years before. Actually, more than 6 years. A little bit more than 6 years before the Churban Beis HaMikdash. And we'll see the content in a moment. What remains to be explained is, what is the 30th year? 30th year from what? So there are many, many different pshatim. One pshat is that he was 30 years old when he got the nevuah, which is very shver because there's no particular reason why we give the Navi's age. Others say it was the 30th year of the Yovel cycle, meaning there's a cycle of 50 years. This is year 30 of the Yovel cycle. Again, it's a little schwer because normally we do not date Nevuos based on a Yovel cycle. And the third explanation that is given is this was 30 years from a very pivotal event, the finding of a Sefer Torah in the Beis HaMikdash during the reign of the righteous Yeshayahu HaMelech. And the Torah was open to an ominous prophecy of destruction. It was open to the Teichacha. And as a result, in Yoshia's reign, that was Ma'orer Yeshayahu to Tshuva, and to some degree he brought other Yidden to Tshuva. The Pasuk wants to tell us 30 years has passed since that Hisayrus for Tshuva. And it didn't continue. The momentum was lost. The Yidden were nichshal. And this is what Hashem is going to tell Yechezkel. Now remember, Yechezkel and Yirmiyahu are living at the same time. Yirmiyahu is the Navi of the Chorban in Eretz Yisrael proper. Yechezkel is among the Charash and the Masker in Bavel. In fact, the Gemara says this is very unique because normally Nevuah is not Shaira in Chutz La'aretz Bichlal. And that's why the Gemara must have said, the Gemara wants to prove that Yechezkel must have had Nevuah even in Eretz Yisrael, and this is not the first Nevuah. This is the first recorded Nevuah, but it's not the first Nevuah. That's one possibility. The other possibility is that because we are approaching the Chorban Beis HaMikdash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give us a special nechama that the Shekhinah will be with us. So unlike Yeshayahu, who was alive more than 100 years before the Chorban Beis HaMikdash, Yechezkel and Yirmiyahu are contemporaries. One is in Eretz Yisrael, and one is in Bavel. Another common denominator is they are both Kohanim. Yirmiyahu was a Kohen, and we are told that Yechezkel ben Buzi is a Kohen. There is even a medrash that says Yechezkel was the son of Yirmiyahu. And when it says ben Buzi, Yechezkel's father was Buzi, Buzi is a lashon of mevazeh, to humiliate, to shame, to denigrate. And that was a kinoi for Yirmiyahu, who was denigrated by his fellow Yidden, he was imprisoned, etc. So, be it as it may, this nevuah comes to Yechezkel when he is b'seich ha'gailah, the 5th day of Tammuz, the 5th year of Yoyachin's Galus, which is 6 years before the Chorban. Pasuk Gimel, Hayo Haya Devar Hashem al Yechezkel ben Buzi HaKohen be'eretz Kasdim in the land of Babylon, al Nar Kavar, Vati alav Yad Hashem, and the hand of God is resting upon him. That's a lashon of a negative nevuah, meaning it's as if the hand of Hashem is pushing on you. Now, what is interesting is that Perek Aleph per se does not yet have a prophetic message, meaning before Hashem gives Yechezkel a nevuah, which will be in Perek Beis and weiter, Yechezkel has a vision of the Kisei HaKavod being carried like a chariot. This is the famous vision that Chazal call Maisa Merkava, the vision of the divine chariot and the Kisei HaKavod. Its ultimate meaning is mysterious and deep and beyond our comprehension. And Chazal even say that most people are not even allowed to contemplate it on a very, very deep level, because they're connecting to spiritual ideas that are so powerful that, God forbid, they could die or go crazy or become heretics. But this is the famous Meiser Merkava. This is what Chazal allude to when they say that by Kriyas Yamsuf, even the lowly maidservant at the Yam saw more than Yechezkel, who had this tremendous vision of the Meiser Merkava. And it's not entirely clear why the Meiser Merkava is a necessary preliminary to the Nevuah. We don't find Yirmiyahu having this vision. But it could very well be connected that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to show him the Kisei HaKavod in motion to be merames to the very important idea that when Klal Yisrael goes into Golus, the Shekhinah is with them. Imo, Anoichi, Batsara, I am with you in your tzaras. So Perek Aleph is going to be a description of the Merkava. We don't really understand it, but I'm going to try to at least give you a physical picture. Now again, you have to understand another thing. The Radak points out, even the physical imagery does not correspond to the Metzias. Rather, what happens in prophetic visions is that the spiritual energies are translated by the faculty of imagination into pictures, because that's how the human being can process it. But in point of fact, the pictures themselves are only mishalim. So even what is being described is not describing a metzius. It's describing the Navi's visualization of those spiritual kochos. This is a very subtle point. I hope you get it. So we're going to look at a physical picture, knowing that it's not necessarily the real picture. And here's what Yechezkel says, Pasuk Dalet. Va'era, and behold, the heavens opened up, and I saw v'hinei ruach sa'ara ba min hatzafon. There's a stormy wind coming from the north. That's a remiss to Bavel, coming from the north. Anan gadol, a great cloud. V'eish mislakachat, and in the middle of the cloud there is fire that is burning. V'neiga lo misaviv, and all around the cloud there is a brightness, a bright light. So Yechezkel sees a bright light, a thick cloud, fire within the cloud. Umi taicha, and from within the cloud, ke'ein hachashmal mitocho eish, there is what is called chashmal within the fire. So chashmal does not mean electricity. Chashmal means a glowing radiance of the Shekhinah. It's interesting, when Eliezer ben Yehuda was looking for a word that could describe the modern phenomenon of electricity, he picked the word chashmal, because chashmal is radiant light, electricity is radiant light. Interestingly enough, although in common speech in Israel we use the word chashmal, there are those who were makbid not to use the word chashmal, because chashmal is the radiance of the Shekhinah. How can I use chashmal for a light bulb or a fluorescent light? So as a result, when they refer to electricity, even in Hebrew, they will call it electric. Ayin, lamed, aleph, kuf, reish, kuf, electric. They will not use the word chashmal. So you'll notice, you'll look in certain sheilus utshuvos on electricity, they will use the word electricity, they will not use the word chashmal. Okay, but be it as it may, this is Yechezkel's initial vision, a cloud with fire and radiance of chashmal. Then he goes further in Pasuk Hey. Umi taicha, and from the middle of the cloud, Demus Arba Chayos, I perceive the image of 4 Chayos. Now, Chayos here, you'll see, does not mean animals. It means living forms, like angels. 4 powers of life. V'zeh marein. And this is how they looked. Demus Adam Lahena. Each of these Chayot had the image of a man. They had what looked like the body of a man, although we'll see some qualifications, and the face of a man. Meaning, as I looked at them, I saw a human face. Pasuk Vav. V'arba'a panim liyachas. But on the other hand, each one of these chayos had 4 faces on each side, meaning a human face is what faced me, but there was a face on the right and on the left and on the back. V'arba kinafayim liyachas lahem. And each of the chayot had 4 wings, 2, a wing on the right and a wing on the left, that could cover their face, and 2, a wing on the right and a wing on the left, that could cover the lower half of their body. V'ragleim, and the legs of these are called the Chayos HaKodesh, the holy Chayos. Ragleim regel yeshara. The leg, instead of being 2 legs, was like 1 leg. In fact, this is the makor of why for Shmona Esrei we put our legs together. We want to be daima to these malachim. The kaf ragleihem, and the soles of their feet were not split into toes. So it's only 1 sole, right? There's like 1 leg, 1 foot. But it was kaf regel egel. It was rounded like a cow, like a paw. V'neitzitzim, and their bodies were gleaming and glittering. Ke'ein necheshes kalal, like burnished copper, kind of a golden brown. These are 4 Chayos HaKodesh. Videi Adam mitachas kanfeihem al arba'as riveihem. And under their wings, and this could be visible from all 4 sides, there were hands. Now, I'm not sure if this means there were arms with hands or just hands. Upneim v'kanfeim li'arba'atam. And there was a face and wings on all 4 sides. That actually means, in a sense, if I'm looking at the front, so I'm looking at the Pnei Adam, so there are 4 wings. But to the right, there's another face that also has 4 wings. To the left, there's another face that also has 4 wings. And to the back, there's another face that's also 4 wings. So that actually means there's a total of 4 faces and 16 wings. Rashi even gives you bigger numbers, but in Pshuto Shel Mikra, 4 faces, 16 wings. Chovrot isha lachota kenkanfeyem lo yisabu belechtan ish el ever panav yelechem. The wings were connected to the body, and the Chayos HaKodesh never had to turn. They just moved in the direction of the face. So, the Pnei Adam moves in that direction. When it wanted to move to the right, it didn't turn, but rather the other face simply directed it. So there was never any turning or pivoting. Sometimes it moved this way, sometimes it moved that way, sometimes that way, sometimes that way. But it's because the face was on all. There was a face on all 4 sides. And now we're given some information about the faces that we didn't have before. Udemus Pneim, Pnei Adam. The face that was facing me, Yechezkel says, was the face of a human. Upnei aryeh el hayamin. To the right of that human face was the face of a lion. La'arbatam. That was true for all four Chayos HaKodesh. Pnei Ashor. To the left of the human face was the face of a shore, of an ox, a bull. La'arbasan, for all four Chayos HaKodesh. Upnei Nesher li'arbatan. And all four, in the back of the head, right, the back, the Pnei Adam is the front, the back is going to be Pnei Nesher. Now obviously, the symbolism of all this is very, very deep. In fact, the Ramban even has an Arichos, that the reason the Yidden built an Egel in the Midbar is because they wanted to draw down the Shefa from the Pnei Hashor, which is Mesugel for a Midbar, that is Shemama. So we don't really fully understand this, but these are the four faces of the Chayos HaKodesh, and each of them had these four faces. The four Chayos, each of them had these four faces. Pasuk Yud Aleph, Upneihem v'kanfeihem prudos milmala, liyish shtayim chavros ish, ushtayim mechasos eskeviosena. So again, it's making the point that on each side, because each face was a separate side, with wings, four wings, two on top and two towards the bottom of the body. Two covered the face, two covered the body. V'ish el aver panav yelechu, and all movement was in the direction of that particular face. There was no pivoting. There were four faces. So in whatever direction needed to be moved, it would be that face that would be leading the movement. El asher yeshama haruach lalechas yelechu, wherever the Spirit of God directed it, it would go. Lo yisabu b'lechtan. There was no turning in their change of direction. There were four faces, so it went here, 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 here. U'demus hachayot. And the image of these Chayos HaKodesh, Mareyen gegachalei esh, was like coals of fire, glowing coals, boaros, burning, gemara lapidum, like torches, he misalechas bein hachayos. It's as if there's a fire going through the Chayos. So it's not just their faces, there's fire all around them. V'noiga lo esh. And around the fire is brightness and radiance. Umina eish yotzei barak. And from that fire comes flashes of lightning. V'hachayos ratzoi v'shayv kemare habazak. Just like a flash of lightning, a brilliant flash, and then it seems to recede. So too the Chayos ratzo. They were moving forward, the shov, and they went back. Again, this is said by Chazal to be a general description of how the malachim are misyaches towards Hashem. They move forward to be close, and then they move back with pachad and meira, ratzai v'shayv. Again, in Kabbalah, you'll see this expression over and over again. In a mahalech of meditation, hisbaidadus, hisbainanus. All of this is ratzai v'shayv, taken from this pasuk. Kemare habazak, like a flash of lightning that, is a brilliant flash, and then it seems to go back into darkness. So these are the four Chayos HaKodesh. Pasuk Tesvav. Va'eira HaChayos. As I contemplated the Chayos HaKodesh. V'hinei oifen echad bi'aretz eitzel HaChayos li'arbas panav. The Chayos that had like one leg with one foot, but again I think it would have to be a foot on all four sides, like the paw of a cow. was resting on something that's called an oifen. Now, an oifen is a wheel. Now, we say in davening, Serafim v'oifanim v'chayos hakodesh. Now, we haven't talked about the Serafim. They're even a higher angel. But the oifanim are the wheels. Now, we don't know exactly if they were shaped like wheels, but essentially, these are a lower level of angel that are the wheels that drive the Chayos HaKodesh in whatever direction the Chayos HaKodesh have to come, and they're called Eifanim. Mara Eifanim Umasayim, the appearance of these wheels to the Chayos HaKodesh. Ke'ein Tarshish, Tarshish is a type of precious jewel. Timus Echad Li'arbatan Maren Masayim Keshayah Eifim B'teicha Eifim. So here it describes the Eifanim as a wheel within a wheel. And I don't have the picture totally clear here, but the understanding is that since the Chayos have to move in all four directions without turning, you don't turn anything, so there had to be two wheels, so to speak, kind of intersecting with each other, perpendicular to each other, so that they could go this way, or this way, that way. A wheel within a wheel, so it could move in all four directions without turning around. That seems to be a very important point. Eifen b'teich eifen. And again, it makes the point, Al arbas riveim belechtam yelechu. On all four of its sides they went, lo yisabu belechtan. There was never any turning. They simply move based on the face and the eifen b'teich eifen. Now we go back to the Chayos HaKodesh. We had a brief mention of the Eifanim. We go back to the Chayos. V'gabeim. They have backs. They have a height. Gaiva lahem. V'yira lahem. Yira means awe-inspiring. V'gabeisam malei seinayim saviv li'arbatam. And on all four sides, the bodies of the Chayos HaKodesh were filled with eyes, as if to say that everything we do is seen by them as Shaluchim of Hashem. Ubelechas HaChayot, when the Chayot had to move, Yelchu Ofanim Etzlam, the wheels, the Ofanim, went. B'yinasei HaChayos mi'al, when the Chayos were lifted up, Yinasu HaOfanim, the Ofanim went up at the Chayot. Wherever the Spirit of Hashem directed the Chayos and the Ofanim, that's where they went. Ofanim yinasu l'umasam, the Ofanim were lifted up with the Chayos. Ki ruach hachaya, because the divine spirit within the Chayos HaKodesh was also in the lower level of the Ofanim. Belechtam, when the Chayos moved, Yelechu, the Eifanim moved. Uviyamdam, and when the Chayos stood still, Ya'amaidu, the Eifanim stood still. Uvihinasam me'al ha'aretz, and when the Chayos were lifted from the ground, against this little shver, because as far as I know, they were never on the ground. Yinasu Eifanim liumasam, the Ofanim were lifted up as well. Ki ruach ha'chaya b'Eifanim, the ruach of the Chayos is in the Eifanim. So far, we've only described two entities. We've described the four Chayos HaKodesh on top of the Eifanim, which is Eifen b'teich Eifen. But now, there's something above the Chayos HaKodesh. They're carrying something. Udemus al Rashi Hachaya Rakia Ke'ein Hakerech Hanora Notui al Rashehem Milmala. On top of the Chayos HaKodesh, above their heads, there is a firmament like a rakia, like a sky. And the sky is pure ice. Norah, awe-inspiring and fearful. Kind of an ice that's not completely opaque. You can make out things above the ice. But it's obscure. It's not clear. And we'll see what that is in a moment. Pasuk Chav Gimel. V'tachas harakia kanfeim yishares yishal ha'chaysa. Under this rakia, the Chayos HaKodesh have their wings. Liyishtai machasas deinu liyishtai machasas tehena. Eskavi Yoseim. Again, I don't have a teretz for all of the repetition here, but it's basically saying that two covered the face in awe, and two covered the body. V'yeshma eskail kanfeim, and then they would be fluttering their wings. And the sound of their wings, kekayo mayim rabim, is like the sound of torrential water, like a waterfall. Kekail shakai is like the voice of God. Belechtam, as they're traveling, the wings are moving. Kol hamula, like a giant crowd. Kekol machana, like the voice of a camp. Biyamdam, but when they stand still. Tirpena kanfeim, their wings hang loose. So sometimes they cover, sometimes it hangs loose, sometimes they flutter them. Vayehi, Kail, Meyal Rakia, Asher al Rosham, and behold, I heard a voice above this firmament. Biyamdam, as they were standing, and their wings were hanging loose. Umi mal rakia, and above that rakia, remember it's like ice, so you can only make out a very faint, indistinct picture. But above that icy rakia, on top of the heads of the Chayos HaKodesh, Kimare Even Sapir, something that looked like beautiful blue sapphire stone. Demus kisei. It had the image of a kisei. In other words, the Chayos HaKodesh are a Merkava, they're a chariot that is carrying the kisei HaKavod, which is a sapphire throne. V'al demus HaKisei, and on top of this image of a kisei, Kimare Adam Olav Lamala, something that resembled a human being. Come back to this. Va'era ka'ein chashmal kamara eish beis lo saviv, and around this Mara Adam, I once again saw the chashmal, the divine light of radiance and fire. Mimare masnavu lamala, from his thigh upwards. Umimare masnavu lamata, and from the lower half of the body. Ra'isi kemara eish, I saw fire v'nayga with brightness, but not chashmal. Again, I have no understanding of this at all. I'm just reading the psukim. The upper half was enveloped with the special light of chashmal. The lower half was mara eish, but it did not have chashmal. Rashi says on this pasuk that I saw the demus, the mara of an Adam in this throne, on top of the throne. Rashi says, Lo nitan rishus lehisponein b'mikrazeh. We are not given permission to think about this pasuk. This pasuk is describing God as a man sitting on a throne in a very indistinct way. That's what the pasuk says. What's the pshat? We know God is not a physical body. We know that if one says God is physical, that's a kfira. In the Yesodei Emunah, the Yud Gimel Ikrim, Rashi seems to say, tzorechiyim. But all I want to point out, and again, I think this might be nichlal in what Rashi says, that as I said before, the visualizations of a Navi, in which he takes spiritual ideas and turns them into mental pictures that can then be described in language, does not refer to an actual reality. It's the visualization of a ruchnius. Now, in some ways, the Mekubalim do teach us that a human being corresponds to the aspects of the Shekhinah on a one-to-one correspondence, but not in a gross physical way. But since we are, so to speak, nishtal shel from the demus adam of the Bayrei, he visualizes the Bayrei b'demus adam. But again, there's not much more we can say about this. So we have the Oifanim, and we have the Chayos HaKodesh, we have the Rakia HaNoira, we have the throne, Kamara Even Sapir, and we have the Demus Adam Al HaKisei, surrounded with Chashmal and Eish. Now indeed, the Eish itself may be Malachim, and these are the Seraphim. So now you have Seraphim, Eifanim, Chayos HaKodesh. The only question is, why are Eifanim mentioned before the Chayos? The Chayra in the order, Seraphim, Chayos HaKodesh, and Eifanim. That's a bit of a kasha. Pasuk Chaf Ches, Kemarei HaKeshes, Ashiyiyah B'yanan B'yom HaGeshem. Like the beautiful colors of the rainbow that are in the clouds after a rain. That was the rainbow radiance around the Kisei HaKavod. Kain Mara Hanoiga Saviv Hu Mara Demus Kavod Hashem. Vo'ereh, and I saw it. Now Yechezkel is with other people, but no one else saw this. V'yepal al panai, and I fell on my face. V'yeshma kael midaber, and I hear a voice speaking to me. And that is the end of Perek Aleph. So Perek Aleph, we don't yet have any nevuah given to Yechezkel. We have the Meire Deka Mara of the Maisa HaMerkava.